Good afternoon, students. I welcome you all into our another session of booster session series for complex examination 2021 by ADMIS, and today we will be discussing the last portion of our entire booster session for mathematics portion. My name is Nimesh, and once again I'm really thankful to ADMIS team for providing me this wonderful opportunity to conduct this entire booster session series for mathematics. So let's get started with our today's agenda that will be covering up the fundamentals from the topics named vectors. Until now, we covered up the fundamentals from algebra, coordinate geometry 1, coordinate geometry 2, and calculus. Today, we will be looking forward to the fundamentals of vectors. So let's get started. So as I've discussed, we will be discussing the vectors fundamentals. Now, when it comes to the discussion of vectors in this particular chapter, let me reassure you that we are having an entirely collection of the fundamentals which we need to look out before simplifying the questionnaires based on the vector space. That is, it covers up a huge sort of fundamentals which we need to remember it up, and this may take entire we can consider that entire 1 hour session. That is, the fundamental concepts need a proper guidance to know how what the vector space look out. So for that, it may happen that the theory part is it is extended up to a duration of near about, let's say, 40 minutes, and then after we will be looking forward to the simplification of the various problems based on this vector space. So let's get started. As and when the fundamental part of this vector is considered, we already know this thing pretty well, that a quantity which requires to be described using both magnitude and direction is called as a vector quantity. For instance, we have the vector quantity as displacement, velocity, force, electric field, acceleration, momentum, etc. All these are vector quantities. That is, it require the magnitude as well as the direction for the proper description of this part. Okay. Then after, if we say that if AB is a line segment and its direction is shown with an arrowhead, as you can find in this particular set of figure, then the directed segment AB, that means this is the starting point, which is known as the initial point, and it is directed towards this point B. So this directed segment AB has magnitude as well as direction, and this magnitude is nothing but this is the length of this arrow represent the magnitude of this particular line segment, and also the length of that vector portion, and this can be considered as an example of vector. Now this point B which you are locating over here, that is known as the terminal point, and this line is known as support or line of action. So this is the fundamental of a vector. Now the segment AB with direction from A to B, it denotes the vector AB, which is read as AB bar, while direction from B to A denotes the vector BA. If it is reversed, then we write it as BA. Now in vector AB, the point A is called as the initial point and the point B is called as the terminal point. This we already discussed. Also the line of support is discussed. Now if the initial and terminal point are not specified, then the vectors are denoted by A bar. A is in small letters, okay, A bar, B bar, or C bar, or we can also denote it with a bold face as A, B, or C respectively. So this is what the fundamental part of the vector theory. Now, let's take a look at the magnitude of a vector. So the magnitude, that means the measurement, what is the size or length of this vector AB, it is denoted by modulus of AB bar and is defined as the length of the segment AB, that is modulus of AB bar is nothing but the length of vector AB. Now magnitudes of vectors A bar, B bar, and C bar are denoted as modulus of A bar, modulus of B bar, and modulus of C bar respectively, wherein we consider these vectors as without any initial or terminal points. Okay, so the magnitude of a vector does not depend on its direction, since the length is never negative, as we know that modulus of A bar is always either greater than or equal to 0. Now the different types of vectors which we need to look out for this vector in space concept, that is starting off with a very basic part, that is zero vector. So a vector whose initial and terminal points coincide is called as a zero vector. Okay, that means it is also sometimes referred to as null vector. It is denoted by modulus of 0 bar modulus, and zero vector cannot be assigned any definite direction since it has a magnitude 0, or sometimes it may be regarded as having any suitable direction. Now the vectors, as we consider that if it is AA bar or BB bar, etc., or CC bar, then these represent the zero vector, and the modulus of that is 0 since it is not having any particular length, not having any direction, so its magnitude is 0, and the direction is not, if it is not having any definite direction. Now when we look at the concept of unit vector, so unit vector is what we consider as whose magnitude is unity. Okay, whose vector having the magnitude or the length as unity, or we can consider only one unit, that is called as a unit vector. And unit vector is in the direction of a given vector a bar, which is represented or denoted by a caret or a cap or a hat, we can consider. Okay, so it is read as a cap or a hat. Now when it comes to the notation for equal vectors, the key concepts include that the two or more vectors are said to be equal vectors if they have the same magnitude and direction. Okay, so let us find that, as we can consider right in this particular figure, that a bar and b bar are two vectors since they have same length and their directions are same regardless of initial point. So we write it as a bar equals b bar, and here modulus of a bar is equal to modulus of c bar, but directions are not same, so we cannot write it as vector a bar is equal to vector c bar, so we denote it with a not equal to sign. So the directions of a bar and d bar are same, but the magnitude is different. So once again the vectors a bar and d bar are not equal. Okay, so only two vectors are equal if and only if their directions and magnitude are same regardless of their initial and regardless of their initial point. All right, so this is the key fundamental dealing with the zero vector, unit vector, and equal vectors. Now let's take a look forward to the other part of the vector in space, that includes the fundamental of other types of vector, that is negative of a vector. Now negative of a vector is referred to as if a bar is a given vector, then the negative of a bar is a vector whose magnitude is same. Okay, it is having the same magnitude, that means the measurement of that vector is same as that of the previous vector, but the direction of that negative vector is opposite to that of a. Now if you consider the vector pq and qp right over here, so pq bar vector and qp bar vector are having same magnitude, but the direction of pq vector is from p to q, whereas the direction of qp vector is from q to p. So they have the same magnitude, but the direction is reversed. So that kind of vectors are known as the negative vectors. Now if we talk about the collinear vectors, so vectors are said to be collinear if they are parallel to same line or they are along the same line, then these vectors are said to be the collinear vectors. Now what are free vectors? So if a free vector can be translated anywhere in the space without changing its magnitude and direction, then such a vector is called as a free vector, or sometimes we may also refer it to as the initial point of free vector can be taken anywhere in the space, keeping magnitude and direction same. So as you can find right over here in the screen below, that vector a bar, b bar, those are free vectors, so we can change the directions. They are freely to move anywhere in the space. Okay, they are not having any particular fixed point. Extending further my discussion for the vectors with the concepts of algebra of vectors. Now when it comes to the scalar multiplication, that means if I multiply any of the integral number or any of the number with any vector, then that comes into the category of scalar multiplication. So let a bar be any vector and k be any scalar quantity, or k be any scalar value. Okay, so the vector k a bar, that is the scalar multiple, is defined as a vector whose magnitude is modulus of Ka bar, which is equal to modulus of K and modulus of A bar, and vectors A bar and same direction if K is greater than 0, and it is in opposite direction if K is less than 0. So right over here you can find that this is our initial vector A bar, and if I multiply it with a constant value 2, so you can find that the vector is getting enlarged. That means the length of the vector is increasing. And if I multiply it with a constant one, if I multiply it with a constant half, then its length is decreasing. So right from this particular instances, you can able to know that the scalar multiple is only changing the length of the vector. Okay, it is only changing the length of the vector. Now, as you can find that since it is the negative sign right located over here, so what does this negative sign indicate? That it is having the reverse direction as compared to the original vector. All right. So this is the key fundamental of the scalar multiplication. Now, few important points to be noted down over here. That is, if this constant k value is greater than 0, then we can say that Ka bar is equal to 0 bar. Also, if A bar and Ka bar are collinear or parallel vectors, okay, we can say that A bar and Ka bar are collinear or parallel vectors. Now, if two non-zero vectors A bar and B bar are collinear or parallel, so we can form this condition which you can find over here, that is A bar equal to MB bar, wherein M is a non-zero constant. Now let A cap be the unit vector along the non-zero vector A bar, then A bar is equal to modulus of A bar into unit vector of A bar, that is A cap, which is also known as A bar upon mod A bar. So the unit vector is written by the vector upon its magnitude, that gives you the unit vector in that particular vector direction, and that is denoted by this A cap, since A is the vector which we are taking for the study purpose. Now, if a vector is of length k in the same direction as A bar, we write that Ka cap is equal to k into A bar upon mod A bar. This is very easy to understand, that I am multiplying the unit vector with a scalar. Okay, whenever it happens, then we can rewrite this at it as k multiplied by A bar upon mod A bar. So this is the few of the fundamentals dealing with the scalar multiplication of vectors. Proceeding ahead further with the addition of vectors, that is, let's say that if A bar and B bar are any two vectors, then the addition, or we can also refer it to as the resultant, it is denoted by A bar plus B bar. So there are two laws which follows this addition of two vectors. First law is parallelogram law, which we are studying right at this moment, and the second law which we'll be studying further, that is the triangular law. Okay, so we'll study both the laws one by one. So starting off with the parallelogram law for addition of vectors, that is, let A bar and B bar be any two vectors. So you can find you can find these two vectors right over here, and consider that AB bar and AD bar along the two adjacent sides of the parallelogram. So we can consider that A bar is along this side AB and B bar is along this side AD. So we can finally say that AB bar is equal to A bar and AD bar is equal to B bar. Then this resultant vector can be obtained by taking the diagonal of this parallelogram, wherein we find C bar as the resultant vector of A bar plus B bar, and ultimately it lies along the diagonal of a parallelogram with A bar and B bar as sides. So we can rewrite, or we can state this condition of parallelogram law as AC bar is equal to AB bar plus AD bar, that is C bar is equal to A bar plus B bar, wherein C bar is the resultant vector of this A bar and B bar. Okay, so we can also consider it from the physics point of view, that if two forces, okay, if two forces are acting from the same point, this point A, and one force is along this length, other force is along this length, okay, so the resultant force can be obtained by like this way, and the angle can be obtained by tan of angle. Okay, this further elaboration you will be studying it in the physics, but this is just a glimpse of it, which is to be known prior to understanding of physics. Now let's take a look forward to addition of vectors by the concept of triangular law of addition of vectors. So triangular law of addition of vectors, for that we once again take the a bar and b bar. There are these two vectors which we take it for the sake of study. Then consider the triangle ABC. See, ABC is the triangle which we are taking it for the sake of study. And we can observe over here that AB bar is equal to A bar and BC bar is equal to B bar. Now it is observed that A bar plus B bar is given by the vector AC. Okay, it is given by the vector AC. That means the originate point of this vector AC is from A and it goes up to C. Okay, so that A bar plus B bar is equal to AB bar plus BC bar, that gives you the value AC bar, that is C bar. Okay, so if you observe that we start our point of addition, we start our vector in this way. This is the A bar vector, then this is the B bar vector. Then to add these two vectors, what is the process we take for the addition? That is, we start from this first vector tail, and it starts from here and it goes up to this way. So we can observe that it is tail to tail match and head to head match. This is the thing which we'll be looking forward in this triangular law of vector addition. And this ultimately is known as triangle law of addition of two vectors A bar and B bar. So this law can also be applied to triangle ADC. Okay, we can also apply this particular law to triangle ADC, which you can find right over here. Okay, so in this case, AD bar is equal to BC bar. Okay, if you observe that this AD bar is equal to BC bar, since it is similar to a parallelogram we can consider. So in a similar way, DC bar is equal to AB bar, as you can find right over here. So AD bar plus DC bar is equal to B bar plus A bar, which ultimately results into AC bar as B bar plus A bar. So which is also equal to A bar plus B bar. So since it vector addition follows the commutative law, we can write it as A bar plus B bar is equal to B bar plus A bar. So this is what the key fundamental dealing with the addition of vectors following the triangular law of addition. Now we'll look forward to the another concept of subtraction of two vectors. In this also students will form the similar pattern as we had studied for addition of vectors. The only key difference which you will be observing is that we are ultimately following the addition rule, but this negative sign, it indicates that there is the change of direction of vectors. As we have already seen, observed this in the previous slide, that negative of vector represent the change in direction. Okay, so if B bar is following this direction, that is from B to C, minus B bar will follow the direction B to D. Okay, so only there is a change of sign. Rest of the process, it is similar to the one which you have already studied for addition of vectors. So if A bar and B bar are two vectors, then A bar minus B bar equals A bar plus minus of B bar, wherein this minus B bar is the negative vector of B bar which we are taking it, and let AB bar equal to A bar, like this way we are taking it. So BC bar equal to B bar. Now construct a vector BD bar in such a way that its magnitude is same as the vector BC bar. So this BD is having the same magnitude as we have for BC, but only the direction is reversed. Okay, so if this vector B is like this way, so vector BD, okay, this is from B to C, so from B to D, it goes like this way. So there is only a change of direction we observe. And then to add these vectors, what we do, we start our addition vector, that is the resultant vector starts from this point A and it extends up to point D. And there goes the resultant, which is represented as A bar plus minus of B bar. So which you can rewrite it as A bar minus B bar. So this is the fundamental which is utilized for subtraction of two vectors. It is very easy if you understand the fundamental of addition of two vectors. Now looking forward to the other concept part, that is, it is important to note over here that if velocity vectors A bar and B bar are acting simultaneously, then we use parallelogram law of vector addition. And if velocity vectors A and B are acting one after another, then we use the triangular law of vector addition. That means if two vectors, that means A and B, and those are velocity vectors, are acting simultaneously, then we are using this parallelogram law of addition. And if vectors A and B are acting one after another, at that point of time, it is preferred that we use the triangular law of vector addition. All right. So this is the key thing to note. Then after, adding vector to its opposite vector gives null vector or zero. This is very basic thing, as we can observe over here, that is PQ bar plus QP bar gives us the vector PP bar, which is equal to null vector or zero vector. Okay. Now in triangle ABC, if AC bar equal to minus CA bar, so we can write it as AB bar plus BC bar plus CA bar, that is equal to AA bar, that is a null vector. So this readily means that when the vectors along the same sides of the triangle are taken in order, then the resultant is zero, as initial and terminal points become the same. So this can be understood with the help of this triangle. I am constructing it right over here. So let's say if this is the A, B, and C. So vector AB bar, BC bar, and CA bar, if they are taken in order, so for this, the resultant is always zero, since their initial and terminal points become same. Okay, so this need not to happen. We need to take care of. And if it happens, then definitely you are remaining with the resultant as zero vector or null vector. Now, the addition law of vectors can be extended to a polygon also. So let's say if there are four vectors, namely A bar, B bar, C bar, and D bar. So we can construct a polygon like this way, that if PQ vector represents the A bar vector, QR vector represents the B bar vector, and RS vector represents the vector C bar. So also we have ST bar, which represents the vector D bar. Now to add these, that is to take the addition of A bar, B bar, C bar, and D bar, what we need to do, we need to construct the resultant vectors like this way. As you can find that from P to R, it gives us the resultant of A bar plus B bar. In a similar way, if we extend this vector from P to S, it gives us the resultant of A bar plus B bar plus C bar. And if we extend it to from P to T, it gives us the resultant finally as A bar plus B bar plus C bar plus D bar. So ultimately, in a nutshell, we can come to a conclusion that the vector PT represents sum of all vectors A bar, B bar, C bar, and D bar, which is also called as the extended law of addition of vectors, or sometimes referred to as polygonal law of addition of vectors. All right. Now we'll proceed further with the discussion. That is, few of the properties or identities. We can say that A bar plus B bar is equal to B bar plus A bar. This signifies that its vector addition follows the commutative law. Then this A bar plus B bar plus C bar is equal to A bar plus B bar plus C bar. That gives us the significance that vector also follows the associative law. Then 0 bar is the additive identity, which we can consider over here, and minus A bar is the additive inverse. Okay, so if we add a 0 bar to any random vector A, then it ultimately results into A bar, that is the vector itself, which showcases that it 0 bar is the additive identity. In a similar way, if we add the negative of any vector to that corresponding vector, it results into the null vector. It signifies that minus A bar is the additive inverse of the given vector. Now, if A bar and B bar are vectors and M and N are scalars, now we can write it like this way, that it follows the distributive law, that is A bar goes with M and it forms MA bar, and N we can multiply it with A bar and it turns out to be NA bar, right? So it follows the distributive law. In a similar way, we can also follow distributive law if there are two vectors in addition and there is only one scalar. So first identity showcase that there are two scalars and one vector, and in second identity we have two vectors and one scalar. Now if we try to multiply them, that is MA bar plus MB bar, that showcases the distributive law followed for vector addition. Now if there is one scalar which is in multiplication with a scalar and vector, so we can also rewrite it as the multiplication of two scalars, or we can take this second scalar out and first scalar into the bracket with the multiplication of vector. So this is how it follows the identity. Now this inequality is of crucial importance when it comes to the simplification of many of the questions. So let's say if a bar plus b bar are two vectors, when they are added, a bar and b bar are two added are added. So modulus of this value, that is modulus of the resultant of a bar plus b bar, is always less or equal to modulus of a bar plus modulus of b bar. Now this is obtained, this is having a proof which is also a key part from your board's perspective, but this result is also sometimes applied in many of the MCQs. Okay, so this you need to take a very good note of this identity, which is also known as triangular inequality, and it is obtained from the triangle law, as the length of any side of triangle is less than the sum of the other two sides. This we already know from the geometry perspective. So in triangle ABC, we can consider that the AC, okay, line segment AC is less than the sum of the other two line segments, wherein the AC represents the modulus of A bar plus B bar, AB represents the modulus of A bar, and BC represents the modulus of B bar. Now let's say if any two vectors A bar and B bar determine a plane, and vectors a bar plus b bar and a bar minus b bar, these vectors are lying in the same plane. Okay, so they lie in the same plane. So for theorem 1 perspective, we need to look out that two non-zero vectors a bar and b bar are collinear if and only if there exists a scalar, there exist scalars m and n, at least one of them is non-zero, such that ma bar plus nb bar is equal to 0 bar. Now this theorem 1, okay, it is the condition which we are utilizing, and based on that we are able to find out that two non-zero vectors are collinear or not. So this is the condition for checking also. Sometimes it is utilized that whether the two non-zero vectors a bar and b bar are collinear or not. So we utilize this condition and we obtain the proof of it. Now if two vectors a bar and b bar are not collinear, okay, so we can consider that ma bar, and also it is given that ma bar plus nb bar is equal to 0 bar, then m is equal to 0 and n is equal to 0, which means that the scalar values which you have multiplied with the vectors both are 0 in magnitude. Now if two vectors a bar and b bar are non-collinear, we can rewrite it as ma bar plus nb bar is equal to pa bar plus qb bar, wherein m is equal to p and n is equal to q. This is very easy to grab it. Now theorem 2 states that if, let's say if a bar and b bar are non-collinear vectors, so vector r is coplanar with a bar and b bar if and only if there exist unique scalars t1 t2 such that r bar is equal to t1 a bar plus t2 b bar. Now what does this ultimately indicate? Okay, it indicates that there are two vectors, two non-collinear vectors, and let's say if those are a bar and b bar. Now if any vector r bar is coplanar with a bar and b bar, let's say if r bar is in the same plane, lying in the same plane of a bar and b bar, so if and only if there exist unique scalars t1 and t2 such that r bar is equal to t1 a bar plus t2 b bar, that means we can consider that r bar is coplanar only if there exists this condition, that is r bar is equal to t1 a bar plus t2 b bar. Now as and when it comes to the discussion of linear combination of vectors, we find that if a1 bar, a2 bar, a3 bar up to an bar, that means there are n vectors taken at one instance, and m1 m2 m3 etc up to mn are n scalars, then the linear combination states that the scalar and vector multiplication and addition of the corresponding vectors, that is m1 a bar plus m2 a m1 a1 bar plus m2 a2 bar plus m3 a3 bar plus up to plus mn an bar, this signifies the linear combination of vectors. Also if at least one m1 non-zero m1 is not zero, then the linear combination is non-zero linear combination. Now theorem 3, it states that three vectors a bar, b bar, c bar are coplanar. What is the meaning of the word coplanar? That they lie in the same plane. So these three vectors are said to be coplanar if and only if there exists a condition wherein the condition states that it is a non-zero linear combination. It follows a non-zero linear combination. Now this, we may utilize this condition in a multiple choice question. Okay, so this condition is of prime importance. So if three vectors are coplanar, if and only if there exists a non-zero linear combination, that is xa bar plus yb bar plus zc bar is equal to 0 bar, wherein the x, y, and z coordinates are non-zeros. Now let's take a look to few of the corollaries related to this vector in space concept. That is, if three vectors a bar, b bar, and c bar are not coplanar, we can consider that xa bar plus yb bar plus zc bar is equal to 0 bar, wherein x, y, and z are zeros. Because if x, y, and z are non-zeros, then they are coplanar. Okay, this is a condition which we observed over here, right, in the previous slide. That is, x, y, and z are non-zeros. That means these vectors are coplanar. But when they are not coplanar, wherein xa bar plus yb bar plus zc bar is 0 bar, but x, y, and z are 0. Okay, x, y, and z over here, these are 0 values. Okay, now corollary 2 states that the vectors a bar, b bar, and xa bar plus yb bar are coplanar for all values of x and y. Now the components of vectors. Now what are these components? The I cap, j cap, and k cap values. That means if we draw a 3D geometry, 3D coordinate system, that is x, y, and z. Let's say this is x axis, this is y axis, and this is z axis. So I cap represent unit vectors in the positive direction of x axis. That means the I cap vector is right over here. Let's say this is the I cap vector with magnitude 1. Okay, in a similar way, this is the j cap vector which lies right along the y axis. It is also having the magnitude 1, and k cap vector lies right over here in the direction z axis. That is the positive z axis we take at present. So it may have the coordinate values as 1 comma 0 comma 0. This is the coordinate. These are the coordinates for I cap in 3 dimensions. Then for j cap we have 0 comma 1 comma 0, and for k cap we have 0 comma 0 comma 1. So these are unit vectors which lies along the axis. Now they represent unit vectors in the positive direction of x, y, and z axis respectively, and the position vector of a point P in R3 is x bar. Now what is this position vector? Let's say once again I am redrawing this coordinate system in 3 dimensions. Now let's say this point P is right located over here. Okay, so position vector of a point P in R3 is given as x bar. That means OP, vector OP, it indicates the position vector, vector x, in the 3D coordinate system, wherein the 3 coordinates are given as x1, x2, and x3 in R3 space respectively. All right. Now x vector can be rewritten in this form, that is x1 I cap plus x2 j cap plus x3 k cap, wherein x1 I cap, x2 j cap, and x3 a cap are the projection vectors of x bar as x vector on x axis, y axis, and z axis respectively. Okay, so let's say what is the meaning of projection? That is, it is, we can consider that the image which we find of this particular vector on that particular plane. Okay, so let's say if any p vector, op vector is right stated like this way, this is o, this is p. Okay, so xi caret, xi caret, or xi cap, let's say if it is, I'm dropping a perpendicular right over here, so this is xi. Okay, this is xi cap. Similarly for y axis we have to drop the perpendicular right over here. That is, let's say if it is along this length, then you need to extend it right over here, and then at that particular point you may obtain the projection of that particular point on y axis. In a similar way you will obtain a projection on z axis, so it will create a cuboidal like hypothetical structure. So that particular, when you join it with a solid line, it constructs a cube format. All right, this is just for the sake of your extra conceptual learning. Otherwise it's good to go if you know only this much pretty well at present. So x1, x2, x3 are the scalar components of x vector, and x1 I cap, x2 j cap, and x3 k cap are the component vectors of x vector. Now magnitude of vector x is given as modulus of x vector, that is also written as under root of x1 square plus x2 square plus x3 square. So if you want to take the magnitude of that particular position vector, that is vector x, so it can be computed using this formula, that is under root of x1 square plus x2 square plus x3 square. Now the concept of inner product. So inner product, which is also referred to as scalar product or dot product of vectors. So if r vector is given as x1 vector I cap plus x2 j cap, and y vector is given as y1 I cap plus y2 j cap. These are the vectors in R2. Okay, that means in 2 dimensions. Then the inner product is obtained, sorry, is denoted by x vector dot with y vector and is defined as x1 y1 plus x2 y2. Okay, so the position vector vector R is equal to, let's say, x1 I cap x2 j cap and y vector as y1 I cap y2 j cap. So we can write it as x vector dot y vector is equal to x1 y1 plus x2 y2. That means multiplying the first coordinates of the given vectors, that is x1 and y1, and multiplying the second the coordinates of the second vectors, that is x2 and y2. Okay, so vector x dot vector y is equal to x1 y1 plus x2 y2. This is the form which we are utilizing it for the simplification part. Okay, and if it is a 3 dimension, so if there exists the third dimension also, that is for k cap, so we can rewrite this particular as x1 y1 plus x2 y2 plus x3 y3. That means we use this for the computation of vectors in R3. For R2 we utilize this particular formula. All right, proceeding ahead further with the properties of the inner product. So we can say over here that if the inner product, we can say that if inner product is a scalar quantity, and so it is also called as the scalar product. That means the resultant of two vectors, when they are taken as a dot product, the resultant is always a scalar value. Okay, so this gives us a significance that inner product is a scalar quantity. And what is the second property? That is, if the vector is taking a product with itself, then the value is always greater or equals to 0. And if x by x vector is dot with x vector, that is equal to 0, or which certainly indicates that x vector is null vector. It is 0 when it is when we are taking a product of null vector with null vector, so we obtain 0 vector, or we also write it as 0. Okay, if x vector is taken a dot product with itself, then we can also rewrite it as modulus of x vector the whole square. Now the vector product, or we can say that the inner product of vectors follows the it follows the commutative law, that is x vector dot y vector is equal to y vector dot x vector. Ultimately the resultant values are same. Now if we have any scalar value which is having a multiplication with any vector, and we take a dot product of that particular with any other vector, so we can rewrite in such a way that, let's say, x vector is taking a dot product with ky vector, so we can rewrite it as k comes in the multiplication of x vector, and this ultimately results into kx vector dot with y vector. And if, let's say, k is taken outside, then also we can rewrite it as x vector dot y vector, wherein this k value is a constant value, which is any real number. It belongs to a set of real numbers. Now for dot product, it follows the distributive law, that is x vector, if it is to be taken a dot product with y vector plus z vector, so we can rewrite it as x vector dot y vector plus x vector dot z vector. Now whenever any unit vector is taken dot product with itself, the resultant is always 1. That means I cap dot I cap and j cap dot j cap and k cap dot k cap will always result into 1. Okay, will always result into 1. Now if any unit vector, let's say I cap, is taken a dot product with any other unit vector, let's say j cap, so I cap dot j cap is 0, j cap dot k cap is 0, and I cap dot k cap is 0. That means ultimately, if you try to understand this with the help of the coordinates geometry fundamental, so since these are I cap is along the x direction, as we know, Okay, j cap is along the y direction and k cap is along the z direction. Okay, so ultimately these are mutually perpendicular. So if you take a dot product, the ultimate result is 0. Okay, the ultimate result is 0. Now next is Cauchy-Schwarz inequality. This is also very useful. Like we studied the triangle inequality, we will also give importance to Cauchy-Schwarz inequality, because this is sometimes, you know, the most common question or most common fundamental rather I should say, which is asked in the MCQ. So let's say if any two vectors are taken dot product like this way, that x vector taken a dot product with y vector, and we take the modulus, that is the magnitude value. So it is always less or equal to the magnitude of product of the rest of the vectors, sorry, the given vectors, that is magnitude of x vector taken up is taken a product with magnitude of y vector, and ultimately the resultant is always greater or equal to the dot product of the given vectors. So for non-zero vectors x vector and y vector, we say that x vector dot y vector, when it is taken a modulus, that means when we are considering only magnitude, for that it is equal to x modulus of vector x and modulus of vector y taken into product, which is related to x vector and y vector are in the same or opposite directions. So this equality follows when these vectors are in same or opposite directions, and this less than inequality follows when these are in different directions. So from this we can conclude that the Cauchy-Schwarz inequality is very useful in identifying the directions also sometimes. All right. Now let's take a look at the triangle inequality. So for this triangle inequality, what does it states that if two vectors x vector and y vector are taken the addition, and we are having only their magnitudes, so that magnitude value of the addition of both the vectors is always less or equal to the magnitude of sum total of both the vectors individually. So if let's say x vector and y vector are two non-zero vectors, we can come to a conclusion that once again x vector plus y vector modulus value is always equal to modulus of x vector plus modulus of y vector, and this happens only if x vector and y vector are in the same direction, and it is always lesser than value wherein x vector and y vector are either in opposite direction or in different directions, like the case we have studied just in Cauchy-Schwarz inequality. But in Cauchy-Schwarz inequality, over here we took the or opposite direction also, but over here in the opposite direction is taken along with the second part, that is in a less than inequality. All right. So it is important to note over here that x vector plus y vector dot with x vector minus y vector is ultimately giving you the value of modulus of x vector square minus modulus of y vector square. So this you can correlate it with the fundamental identity which you have studied right into your let's say 9th standard. So let's say the identity was a minus b, a plus b, and that gives you the value as a square minus b square. So we can relate this algebraic identity with this vector identity just for the sake of remembrance. Okay, in a similar way, this also follows the similar pattern of identity, that is a plus b the whole square equal to a square plus 2ab plus b square. The only difference is that in your 9th grade you had learned this as a part of algebraic form, and over here you are learning it with the perspective of vector form. Okay, so this is how it follows for vector algebra, and that particular was only simple algebra. Okay, so the work done by a force is a scalar quantity. Why? Because in physics you already know that work done is equal to force into displacement, where this force and displacement are vector quantities wherein they are taken as the dot product. Okay, so d vector dot with f vector or f vector dot with d vector will ultimately result into a scalar value. So work is a scalar quantity, not a vector quantity. Now, outer product of vectors and its properties, that is, let's say if any two vectors x vector, y vector are given as x1 I cap, x2 j cap, and x3 k cap, and y vectors are given as y1 I cap, y2 j cap, y3 k cap, are vectors in R3, then to find out the cross product, what is the process utilized? We take the determinant. Okay, we take the determinant, we write the I cap, j cap, k cap, right, like this way in the first row, and the second row is getting occupied with the vector x values, and the second row is getting occupied with the vector y values, okay, which is taken in order as I, j, and k. So if it is not given in order, your first and foremost task is to rearrange it in a chronological way. That is, I cap value will come first, then j cap, and then k cap, and then you are supposed to substitute the values of vector x and vector y and find out the determinant value of the x vector cross with y vector, and the resultant is a vector quantity. Make sure the resultant which you are obtaining it after the simplification is a vector quantity. In the inner product, the resultant was a scalar quantity. In the outer product, it is always a vector quantity. This is to be taken to a note. Now, few of the properties of outer product, like we have the properties for inner product. So outer product, as I've already mentioned, is a vector quantity. So it is also known as the cross product. And x vector cross with zero vector gives always the zero vector. Okay, over here it is the quantity which you are obtaining is a null vector. In the previous case, you obtained only scalar value. Now, over here, x vector cross with ky vector, we can consider the similar identity like we studied for inner product. So it also follows the rule like this constant scalar constant can be taken outside, and then ultimately it results into the cross product of the two vectors. Now, if we take cross of any unit vector with itself, then ultimately it will result into a null vector. But if we took the dot product of any unit vector with itself, then it will always result into 1. This is to be taken care of. All right. Now, if any vector is taken cross product with itself, then it will always result into a null vector. And x vector cross y vector is equal to negative of y vector cross x vector. Over here, the direction gets reversed. Okay. So x vector cross with y cross y vector plus z vector. Over here, the distributive law is followed, and I cap cross j cap is equal to k cap. That means we, for the sake of simplicity, we write I cap over here, j cap over here, and k cap over here, and then we take the cross product in order. That means I cap cross j cap gives you k cap value, then j cap cross k cap gives you I cap value, and k cap cross I cap value gives you j cap value. So this you can construct it for the sake of your rough work aspect, and then you can follow the cross product of the given set of vectors for the MCQ part. Okay. Now, it is important to note over here that outer product in is not defined in R2. For 2 dimension, it is not defined. For it is only defined for 3 dimensions. So if x vector and y vector are collinear vectors, then we can say that x vector cross y vector are is equal to 0 vector. That is, we can observe it from this condition pretty well. That is, x1 upon y1 is equal to x2 upon y2 is equal to x3 upon y3. That it follows the constant ratio, wherein vector x is given by x1 I cap plus x2 j cap plus x3 k cap, and y is given as y1 I cap plus y2 j cap plus y3 k cap. Now, to proceed further, since we are having few more concepts, and I can find that we are running out of time now. So what I will do is I will pace up a little more rather than explaining it everything in detail. Now, it is important to note over here that whenever it comes to the discussion of relation between dot and cross products, we take it as cross product square plus dot product square is equal to square of individual vectors. Okay, this is how we remember it. That is, modulus of cross product square plus modulus of dot product square is equal to modulus of individual vector square. That is relation showing the Lagrange's identity. And inner product of 4 vectors can be found out using this particular rule. That is the determinant of the dot product of the corresponding vectors, that is a dot c, a dot d, and b dot c and b dot d. Okay, we need to take this like this way, and we obtain the inner product of 4 vectors. Now, last fundamental for utilization to be learned, that is box product. So what is box? One time dot, one time cross, it gives you box. In a simple way, if you want to understand, it is one time dot, one time cross. So one dot will come, one cross product will come, and that gives you the value as scalar triple product or box product, and it is denoted by x vector, y vector, z vector in the box brackets. Okay, So it is a scalar value. Make sure it is the scalar triple product is a scalar value, and you obtain it like this. It is obtained by determinant D, wherein you write the vectors in the determinant form like this way, and you obtain the scalar value. Now moving ahead further, part C, these are the things which you can at present take the screenshot of it and confirm it in the chat window, since we are also supposed to simplify a few of these sums. So do take a screenshot of it and confirm me in the chat window. You can type Y for the confirmation. All right. Please take a screenshot of this particular also. Okay. Now at present I'm skipping these parts, but you need to know this thing pretty well. That is the angle between two non-zero vectors. Okay, the angle between two non-zero vectors can be computed using alpha, that is equal to cos inverse of x vector dot y vector, the whole divided by modulus of x vector modulus of y vector. Okay, this is how we compute the angle between two non-zero vectors. So take a screenshot of this slide. You can refer it on a further stage. Kindly confirm it in the chat window. All right. Few of the important results which are dealing with the fundamental of the cross product as well as dot product. Now, if x vector and y vector are vectors in same direction, then alpha value is 0. That is the angle between two vectors is 0. If x vector and y vector are in opposite directions, the angle value is pi. And if the dot product value is 0, it signifies that the two vectors are perpendicular to each other and the alpha value is pi by 2. So x vector dot y vector is equal to modulus of x vector modulus of y vector product with cos alpha. And in a similar way, if modulus of x vector cross y vector is to be taken, then it is equal to modulus of x vector modulus of y vector sine alpha. So unit vector perpendicular to both x vector and y vector is given by plus or minus. Unit vector perpendicular to both x vector and y vector is given as plus or minus x vector cross y vector upon modulus of x vector cross y vector. And this is how we compute the area of triangle ABC, that is given by half of modulus of AB vector cross AC vector. Take a screenshot of this slide. It will help you out in the simplification of many of the problems. Confirm me in the chat window once it is done. All right, we'll proceed further. Now in this, I don't find any further part of concept which are generally asked in MCQs. So let's take a look at the projection of a vector and magnitude of projection of vector. This is also an important fundamental. Projection means if any vector is, let's say a vector A is like this way, and if we want to find the projection of this vector on any other vector which is located right over here. So projection, that means this particular, what it is projected on this vector, this portion, we are finding it out by this particular fundamental, that is given by projection of x vector on y vector, that is equal to x vector dot y vector upon modulus of y vector square into y vector. Okay, this is the fundamental of projection. And to find the magnitude of projection, that means how much length it is covering up, that can be computed using this particular fundamental, that is modulus of x vector dot y vector upon modulus of y vector. And the component value that is taken as without modulus sign, if we take component value, that is given by x vector dot y vector upon modulus of y vector, then it indicates the component of a projection of vector x on vector y. Also, it is denoted as component of x vector on y vector, like this way. Direction cosines are also useful for the computation of many of the MCQs. So I request to take the screenshot of this particular slide. Direction cosines, direction angles, and direction ratios of a vector. Do confirm me in the chat window once it is done. Okay. Now at present I'm skipping this. This is sometimes asked in the MCQ, so this is of least importance. This we have already studied it, so this is also a kind of skip. Now let's take a look at problems on vectors. The first problem offered to us, that is, if a vector is a unit vector, then vector a dot I cap square plus vector a. Okay, one student is having a query, sir, I have problem in direction cosine, please explain that. Okay, I'm explaining that. See, what are direction cosines ultimately? Let's say if we consider any 3D figure. Okay, I will try to draw the 3D figure like this way. This is x, this is y, this is z, and let's say if any vector is coming out of the screen like this way. Okay, so this vector p, op vector, is coming out of the screen. Okay, you may imagine it in a 3D space, and op vector is directed coming out of the screen. So for this, direction cosine alpha, what is alpha? Alpha is the angle traced between this ox and op, and this angle you are finding it like this way. Okay, the position vector of p is taken as vector x, which is also denoted by x1 I cap, x2 j cap, and x3 k cap. Okay, so if you try to write this particular in the form of coordinate values, so p coordinates are x1, x2, x3. Now consider that this p point p is op vector is coming out of the screen. Okay, I cannot able to properly draw this thing pretty well since it is a 2D. I am having it. So just imagine that op is a p vector is positioning out of the screen, and this is having a value which is this is having a value of angle traced between op vector and vector ox, which is given by cos of alpha. Okay, this is alpha, and this is the direction cosine that is given as x1 upon vector x bar modulus. In a similar way, this op vector, when it is tracing an angle with the oy vector, that is the y axis, it traces the angle beta. And similar way, if op vector is tracing the angle with the z axis, it traces the angle gamma. So this is ultimately the cos alpha, cos beta, and cos gamma values. So it is the angle ultimately which is traced between the vector, that is OP vector, and the corresponding axis. And on resolution of these vectors, there is a proof, but proof is not as a part of our study at present. So the proof, the fundamental which you need to know for the direction cosines are cos square alpha plus cos square beta plus cos square gamma is equal to 1. I believe it is properly understood, student. Please confirm it. You can type Y if it is properly understood. All right. Thank you for the confirmation. Now we'll proceed further with the simplification of problems on vectors. So first problem offered to us is that if a vector is a unit vector, then make sure it is already stated to us that vector A is a unit vector. So the modulus of vector A is equal to 1. Now what is modulus of vector A? See, if it is in 3 dimensions, you can find that I cap, j cap, k cap, all the 3 unit vectors are given to us. Okay, so it certainly indicates that a vector is in 3 dimension. So for that, the modulus of a vector is given by under root of a1 square plus a2 square plus a3 square. All right, this thing we already know from the fundamental, and this is ultimately equal to 1. So from this we can say that a1 square plus a2 square plus a3 square is also equal to 1. Since we take the square root right over here, so it turns out to be 1 square, and 1 square is 1. We'll utilize this result further. Now let's take a look at a vector dot with I cap. Okay, so when you take a vector dot with I cap, so as we know that the coordinates of I cap are 1 comma 0 comma 0, and the coordinates of this vector are given as a1 a2 a3. Okay, so if we take a dot of a vector with I cap, it will ultimately result into vector a. Okay, it will ultimately result into vector a. Since over here only a is taken, so I will take a1 as a, a2 as a, and a3 as a. So it ultimately results out into a. And in a similar way, vector a, if it is taken a dot product with j cap, once again it results into a. Okay, and once again vector a, if it is taken a dot product with k, once again it results into a. Now if you observe that if we take the square of these values, okay, if we take a square of these values, so in spite of writing a1 square plus a2 square plus a3 square equal to 1, can I rewrite this value as a square plus a square plus a square equal to 1, since we are having the values over here as a and a respectively. If it is given as a1 a2 a3, then we will take it as a1 a2 a3. All right, so since we are provided with these values, what I will do is I will take the square of these values, a square plus a square plus a square, and from this particular result we have the final answer as 1. So my final answer is 1 for this particular question. All right, now let's take a look at the further problem, problem 2, that is vector a, if it is taken a dot product with x bar is equal to 0, vector a, if it is taken a dot product with y bar is equal to 0, and once again a vector a is taken the dot product with z vector is equal to 0, then the scalar triple product of vectors x vector, y vector, and z vector is equal to what? Now over here it is important to note that the vector a, since this vector a is perpendicular to all the three vectors. See how this we observe this, that it is perpendicular. Since the dot product is 0, it ultimately signifies that the angle traced between vector a and x, vector x is pi by 2. In a similar way, angle traced between vector a and vector y is also pi by 2, and between vector a and vector z is also pi by 2. So it ultimately indicates that the given vector is perpendicular to all the three vectors x vector, y vector, and z vector. So it certainly indicates that the given vectors are coplanar. Okay, so vector x vector, y vector, and z vector are coplanar, and whenever these vectors are coplanar, we can certainly conclude that vector x, vector y, vector z is equal to 0. Okay, since all these vectors lie in the same plane, that means the scalar triple product is 0. This is coming from the identity which we have already covered up previously. Okay, you might have noticed this in previous slide. So your final answer turns out to be option C, 0. Now for problem 3, we have cross product of vector A with the cross product of vector B cross with C, and if it is 0 vector, it is stated clearly in the question. Now we know this thing pretty well, that whenever a vector is taking cross product with another vector, then definitely those vectors are parallel to each other. Okay, so following the same concept and also using this particular result right over here, see it is given that vector A is a non-zero vector, so it readily indicates that vector B cross C is a 0 vector. So whenever the vector B vector and C vector are the resultant vector is 0 vector, and when B and C are taken in cross product, it certainly indicates that vector B and vector C are parallel to each other. Okay, so when these are parallel, the cross product is 0, and when it happens, we certainly come to a conclusion that the answer to the given question turns out to be option A, that is B vector is parallel to C vector. Let's go to the simplification of next problem, that is problem 4. So if vector x is taken or is to be taken a dot product with vector y and vector z, okay, vector y and vector z are in cross product and vector x is in dot product with that particular. Now it is equal to uh, modulus of x vector, modulus of y vector, modulus of z vector. Now when this happens, when this condition is happening, if this happens, then we certainly come to a conclusion that the vector x, when it is taken a dot product with y cross z, so it is ultimately the, it can be rewritten as the scalar triple product form, that is x vector, y vector and z vector, and this gives you the volume of parallelepiped. Okay, it gives you the volume of parallelepiped. Now I believe you know what is this parallelepiped. Okay, I need not to draw this entity right at this moment. Now since we have this condition satisfying that if the scalar triple product of the given vectors is equal to modulus of these vectors, so what is happening over here, that it ultimately it turns out to be a cuboid. When this happens, then the parallelepiped is nothing but it is a cuboid. So when it is a cuboid, we know this thing pretty well, that the edges are perpendicular to each other. Okay, when it is a cuboid, we certainly know that the edges are perpendicular to each other. Now whenever the edges are perpendicular to each other, okay, so the dot product value of the given edges is 0. So that ultimately indicates that the edges are perpendicular, and from the given options there exists only one option which is satisfying this particular condition, wherein we can find that the dot product value is 0, that is in option D. Okay, so option D is the correct answer for this particular question. Moving ahead with the last question for our today's meeting, that is A vector is given by 3i vector 3i cap minus 5j cap. B vector is given by 6i cap plus 3j cap. And if C vector is defined by, that is equal to A vector cross B vector, then take the ratio of modulus of A vector is to modulus of B vector is to modulus of C vector. Now how to simplify this? Let's construct the determinant. So I cap, j cap, k cap, and see in this A and B we are missing the result, missing the k cap value, so I will take k cap value as 0 by default, and I will introduce only I cap and j cap values. As for A vector it is 3 and minus 5, for B vector it is 6 and 3, and then simplify this determinant. So simplification of determinant turns out to be 3 into 3, that is 9, minus 6 into minus 5 is minus 30, and in the trailing I will write it as k cap. So it is ultimately 39 k cap, and this is none other than it is C vector, which is equal to A cross B. Now if you take the modulus of vector A, it gives you the under root of 3 square plus, just a minute, 3 square plus minus 5 square. So if you simplify it, it is 9 plus 25, that is equal to under root 34. Modulus of B cap, that is equal to under root of, we have 6 square plus 3 square, that is equal to 36 plus 9, that is equal to under root of 45. And lastly, modulus of C cap, sorry, modulus of C vector is equal to 39 value itself. Okay, since it is under root of 39 square, so I will not write it further, I will rewrite it as 39 itself. Now if you take the ratio, if you take in this particular format, it turns out to be root 34 is to root 45 is to 39. So your final answer turns out to be option B. All right. So I believe that this particular vector theory was a contribution part to your uh, present knowledge of vectors, and you might have revised this particular class with utmost attention and care. So on this note, I would hereby like to conclude our today's session, booster session for complex examination, that was dealing with the vector theory part. And also we are ending up with the booster session series for the complex examination dealing with the mathematics portion. I would once again uh, I would once again extend my thanks to the admins team for providing me this wonderful opportunity to take the complex session for the students, and I wish you all the best for the examinations. Okay, thank you so much students for attending it attentively, and thank you admins team for providing me this opportunity. I would now like to hand over this presentation to the admins tech team.